Hey, what's up guys? I'm back with another update for my game. It's been a while since the last time because I've honestly had no break with work recently, but we're pushing through. Also, I'm trying Let's Plays that I feel aren't as boring as these, so if you're interested in checking that out, peep the latest gameplay of Devour in the description below or up top. So yeah, check out this mini clip.
Yes.
Yes, we got him,
We
man.
got one.
Oh my god! Oh my god! No, 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 no! Get it! Go! Run, 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 run!
Go run, Mikey! Get the frick out of here! Woo!
Basement, basement, basement,
Oh my
basement!
god! Oh, Frank, you got me! No!
Got you!
God damn.
Oh my god.
Anywho, let's get into it. Last video I went over the process of sound design. Although I didn't cover every single bit of sound that this level for my game has, it definitely was some of the main noises we'll be rolling with throughout the entirety of this level. So far we've been over our health system, some shooting mechanics, lighting, and a little bit of UI. Alright, cool. So with all that being said, let's get into level design, baby. Alright, so by far this is absolutely what I love doing. Essentially, level designing is the process of mapping out the path which players will take in order to get from point A to point B. Alright, so great level designing can be orchestrated in such a way that players won't even realize that everything is set up and planned out for them to do, making them think that they're in control of what's going on and they won't even notice linear paths.
What?
That's great level designing. Take this for example. This level from Evil Within 2 stands out to me as one of my favorite level designs. Essentially, the designer leads the player into specific areas with a narrative and light design. Here you can see the player heading to the only spot that's visibly different from the rest of this area. Afterwards, the player is being chased down, but they're being guided by light. This way they know exactly where they need to go, all the while having obstacles in their way. And other games like Senua's Hellblade use strong sound and narrative design to guide the players. Much like most games where the protagonists are talking to themselves to hint the player where to go, Hellblade takes it to another level by revolving these hints and guides as a state of mental depression that the protagonist is in. I don't want to go too far off on a tangent, but there's no way you can really talk level design without mentioning Nintendo's Super Mario games. I highly recommend watching Game Maker's Toolkit video on Super Mario's level designing. To sum it up, the designers get really creative by introducing a new mechanic in each level and steadily increase the difficulty of progression with this certain mechanic. This definitely makes for fun and unique levels that can stand out to players. It also keeps the game fresh almost at all times. Moving on though, this completely varies on each game and playstyle that the designer is aiming for. For my level, I'll be focusing on a more linear path with some small explorative areas that'll reward the player with some lore and resourceful pickups. Now, this shows story through environmental design, an example being a character that is shown defeated on the ground with multiple enemies around him or the said character. Now let's say that in this scenario there are scratches and visible damage all around this area with enemies piled up and they're leading a pathway towards this defeated character. What would your assumption be walking into this room? It was obviously a hard fought battle with this character versus all these enemies that are piled up and laying around. You could eventually end up adding some sort of note of this character's last few minutes that they wrote out or something similar. This would basically build up some backstory and lore for this universe. Or you could add in like a badge or something specific that the character was carrying that you could pick up and it be used as some sort of usable tool for the protagonist. And then you have it be explained later throughout the game with some lore behind the fallen character that you had picked this item from. One of the more recent games I remember playing with something like this was The Last of Us Part 2. Now, a small spoiler warning, there was a part in the game where it builds up this character character that was an archer through these letters that you can find and read. And over time, I think there was a part where you go through a garage of this random home, I think, and you see this character with this bow. If I'm not mistaken, you can pick up the bow and begin using it. The point being that this bit of lore through the letters are connected through a type of narrative and environmental design. So why is this important to level design? Well, I believe good level design connects environmental, narrative, and object placements together to make the best of any sort of level. This doesn't mean that it has to include all these things. Back in the day when I played COD, I remember the Nuketown map being one of like the most popular maps. It was a short and easy layout for players to remember, so I think it being so compact and predictable to where the enemies are or would be camping really brought out the best battles, in my opinion. Speaking of, let me know down in the comments below if there are any levels that you've played that really stand out to you, or even really your favorite levels. Now, going back to my little level, I got this art layout through a free package online. Normally I like to start level designing by making some sort of a sketch and kind of map out the area. However, since I don't really have many other art pieces to use from this package, I'll make the most of it. Like I said earlier, I decided to make a pretty linear path, but with a bit of a twist. I'm going to go into this project without sketching out any of the level and completely randomly placing different walls and objects all around. And then afterwards, I'll attempt to come up with purposes for all of these rooms and objects that are being randomly placed. It's honestly not too smart, but I want to try and challenge myself and set my creative flow loose. By this point, I have all these rooms set. I ended up screenshotting what I made, moved it over to Google Draw. From here, I started adding in some keys, markers, usable items, walls, and just any other thing that'll be interactable with the player. I like to plan a little bit on what paths that the player will take, as well as where some of the enemy interactions will take place. This way I can properly place health and other sorts of things for the player. I'm still in the process of adding in extra lore, but this is basically what the process has been so far in creating this game. Alright, so for the beginning intro, I want the players to have some sort of lore thrown at them. So what I've done was add in a light source and made it to where the only way players can really get any sense of progression is to move forward. I won't rely fully on environmental design though. I don't want it to play a big role for this particular level. I have some narrative design coming from Riley to hint players on what their next objective is, much like as if she's talking to herself. This kind of ties into what we were talking about earlier. I think this strategy has been used a lot recently, but I do feel like it's better to have that than to hold the player's hands throughout the entirety of the game. It also honestly just depends on the game though. For some shooters like Borderlands, it's not a bad thing to have like a task list as a reminder, just because there's so much going on in that game. In my best opinion, it's always a bit more immersive if the player's figuring out things on their own without much help, but it's just as important to not overwhelm them with too much information being thrown at them. I think I may try and add in a few hints after a few playtests though, just to see where my game is at. Color coding and knowing the significance of colors are always important too. So let's say a keypad by a door is red and then all of a sudden the switch is flipped and then this keypad turns green. I'm sure it's psychologically embedded in our heads that green means go while red means stop or not accessible. Basic stuff like that informs players when things are available. So yeah, I could go on and on talking about the psychology of level design or different games and how different developers go on about their levels and mechanics and putting everything together, but I don't want to make this video too boring, so I'll just end it here. And well, I hope you all enjoyed this video. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.